These are all photographs taken with my favorite digital camera, and in today's video I want to talk in praise of that camera and to make a point that I think especially beginners in photography should hear in regards to gear. Let's begin.
Maybe it scares you like it scares me.
If you've been following me and my work for a while, you can probably already guess which camera this video is about. When starting out with photography and thinking about acquiring a camera to shoot with instead of your phone, we are hit with an enormous market with so many cameras that at first it will seem quite impossible to make the right choice. And let's get one thing out of the way actually, I think that is true. I think there is no way you're going to make a right choice. The only difference that you can make is to make a better choice or a worse choice. What I personally find interesting about my choice of favorite camera is that in technical terms, this camera would seem like a terrible choice. Let me show you. So this is my favorite camera, the Lumix GX80, or as it is called in the US, the Lumix GX85. I don't know why Panasonic gives their cameras different names depending on the country. I think it just leads to confusion, but I'm sure there's some good reason that I, as a simple consumer, cannot know. In comparison to the cameras these days, this thing is ancient. I believe this was released back in 2016. It's a micro four thirds camera and houses a 16 megapixel sensor. So yeah, the sensor is half the size of a full frame camera and the megapixels is about half as many as cameras nowadays, I think. Honestly, I'm not very up to date with the current camera market, but I've heard of many cameras ranging from 30 to 50 megapixels or something, so in comparison, 16 sounds a bit puny. So what makes this camera so special to me? It started in Japan. Before embarking on the 3-month trip to Japan in spring of this year, I was of course facing the big question: what gear do I take with me? I ended up taking my Pentax K1000 as my main film camera, being the rigid SLR that it is. Additionally, I took my Olympus Mu 2 170 VF with me for a flexible point and shoot option. And I also packed the Olympus XA3 to have something in between. On the digital side, I knew that I was going to take the Sony a7 III with me because that's my main video camera and I knew that I will need it for work in Japan. The Sony, however, is a great hybrid camera and I've used it a lot for photography as well, especially when shooting in low light or in fog. However, for this trip, I decided to also bring the Lumix because it's so small it barely takes up space or weight, and I knew that I enjoy using it too, so why not, I thought. This turned out to be the best decision I could have made, because apart from all the film that I shot in the 3 months in Japan, I think I literally just shot one photo with the Sony, whereas with the Lumix I shot hundreds, if not thousands. So why was that? I can summarize the reason in one key point: ease of use. So this was the setup, the Lumix GX80 with the Panasonic 20mm f1.7, which is the full frame equivalent of a 40mm lens. As you can tell, this setup is tiny and it weighs nothing. Now, I'm not sure how well the difference can be seen in the video, but having this hanging around from my shoulder or neck and having this hanging around from my shoulder or neck feels vastly different. The Sony is a heavy, uncomfortable brick that makes me want to shove it into my bag and not get it out again. The Lumix, on the other hand, I can have hanging around me all day without ever bothering me to the extent that I'd want to tuck it away. And this feeling that a camera gives you is a factor that should not be underestimated. My theory is that the most important aspect of a camera is actually the way it makes you feel. So, does it make you feel good and fuel your enthusiasm and make you pick it up and bring it along all the time so that in case you run into something cool, you can photograph it? Or does it make you dread the process a bit because it's too inconvenient or in other ways unattractive? That makes the biggest difference, because no matter how incredible your camera is, if you don't have it with you, the chance is high that you're going to miss a special moment that could have become a great photograph. Personally, I'd rather capture a bunch of moments and scenes that I think are cool with a mediocre or even bad camera than just a couple that I thought were worthy of bringing out my super fantastic camera. And that is precisely what I did in Japan. It was during my time there that I realized what an absolute gem this little camera is. I could just pack it in a bag or even my jacket's pocket and bring it with me anyway, just in case. And that, just in case, happened quite a lot. When just walking around somewhere or meeting friends, the chance of encountering a photo-worthy scene is still high, and having a camera with you that adds as little resistance as possible to the photography process is key to actually capturing more meaningful photos. That is also why I love point-and-shoot film cameras. Sometimes you just have to be fast and shoot in automatic and not bother thinking about exposure settings or picking the right lens, just shoot and move on. Of course, this doesn't apply to all types of photography, so let's say you're a super intentional landscape photographer, in which case this probably doesn't really help you because it is precisely your process to look for ages for that perfect vantage point to shoot one photograph maybe, or a couple. But you know me, I kind of shoot everything and anything, whatever I encounter as a part of documenting my life and what I see. This can range from street photography to still life to random corners of a road. I want to take a minute to thank the lovely sponsor of today's video, which is Squarespace. Squarespace is a great all-in-one website platform that we photographers can use to make our website. I've been using Squarespace for about 3 or so years for my portfolio, and that is where I present the different projects I've worked on or am currently working on, ranging from short films to photography projects. So here you can look through my work with a little thumbnail and then click see more if you want to know the details, where I've either placed the finished work or it says something like work in progress. What's great about Squarespace, in my opinion, is the user interface, because someone like me who doesn't have much experience with website building can use Squarespace rather easily without needing to watch hours upon hours of tutorials. It's pretty self-explanatory. You can start off with one of their many templates and then customize those to fit your own needs and taste. Head to squarespace.com for a 14-day free trial, and then when you're ready to launch your website, you can go to squarespace.com/Crawford to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you so much to Squarespace for supporting me in my work here. I really appreciate it. There's this theory when it comes to working on something or being productive in general, which is that making the process fun will lead to the best results. I sadly don't remember the exact quote or who said this, but basically there's this quote that says something like, "You can't beat someone who's having fun." What that means is that outworking someone that is having fun will never work, because having fun in the process is the most powerful driver of progress. And I think this thought can be perfectly applied to photography. You can't become a better photographer by simply shooting with a better camera, but you certainly can become better by having fun in the process and simply shooting more. Or in another angle, a fantastic photographer with a mediocre camera will always take better photos than a mediocre photographer with a fantastic camera. What this all boils down to, and how this applies to the Lumix being my favorite camera, is the amount of resistance you put between you and your photography. The less resistance there is for you to shoot, the more photos you're going to take and the better you're going to become. So as mediocre and old my beloved Lumix GX80 may be, it is what allowed me to always be equipped with a camera and never miss an opportunity when one appeared. I remember realizing this while walking around Shinjuku in Tokyo, with a couple friends just chatting and shooting at the same time. The camera didn't feel like a burden to carry while also chatting with friends, and in these evenings I shot some photos that I personally really look back at fondly now. Something else to consider is whether all the incredible specs of the newest cameras are really necessary. I just saw that the Canon R5 has a 45 megapixel sensor. That is insane and absolutely unnecessary for most people. Even my Sony a7 III sometimes feels overly competent with its 24 megapixels. The Lumix GX80 has a 16 megapixel sensor, and I've not once felt like that was insufficient. Of course, keep in mind, I've also never shot a billboard with this camera, in which case I do think it would probably not be good enough. But let's be honest, how many of us are shooting billboards? And it's the same with the ISO. On their website, Canon proudly presents that the R5 can shoot up to 51,200. The highest ISO I've ever shot was 4,000. With the Lumix, I know that I'm not pushing it above ISO 400 because even just 800 doesn't look too good anymore, and so I just work with that limitation. And limitations in the creative process are a whole other topic, and how limiting yourself can make you better, but that's not what this video is about. As a final point in this video, I want to return to the discussion around the feeling that a camera gives you. The feeling I was talking about before was the feeling of resistance, in the sense that you want to avoid a camera that gives you that feeling of resistance because, for example, it's too heavy, which was the case for me with the Sony a7 III. But another feeling I would like to highlight, because I think it's so important and shouldn't be underestimated, is the positive feeling a camera can give you. When you feel that a camera is just so cool that it really makes you want to pick it up and just go out and shoot with it, no matter the results, because it's the process of shooting that is fun, that is the camera that you want. That feeling is, in my opinion, the most powerful thing that you can look for in a camera, and one of the most significant factors that will make a camera suit you. Now, please keep in mind that I'm strictly talking about photography as an artistic medium in this video, so photography for artistic documentary purposes or staging scenes or whatever else you might want to do in an artistic sense, but what this is not about is commercial photography, so a bit like what I was hinting on when I said that I wouldn't shoot billboard photos with the Lumix. I am of course aware that there are many genres of photography that require high-end specs, but in this video I'm strictly speaking about photography as an artistic medium, and choosing the right camera in that sense can look vastly different from choosing the right camera in the commercial sense. I'll present myself as an example. I have a Sony a7 III as my main video camera because of its capabilities, and as a fantastic addition, it is also a great camera for photography. But to be honest, it doesn't really inspire me. Even apart from the fact that it is big and heavy, I just don't really like it. It doesn't give me that feeling that makes me want to pick it up and practice my photography. A camera that does give me that feeling in a very strong way is the Pentax K1000. I absolutely love that camera, and simply seeing it makes me want to look through the viewfinder, and oh, maybe while I'm at it, there's a composition. And the Lumix GX80 is somewhere in between. It isn't as powerful as the Pentax, however it does give me that push, that feeling of enthusiasm, and that is what makes this camera so powerful to me personally, and why, despite it being old and very mediocre by today's standards, the Lumix GX80 is my favourite camera.